the adoption of the agenda. The recommendation that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of July 30th, 2012 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Garon, seconded by Councillor Carlick-Pearson. Is there any discussion? Questions been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. The first item on that agenda is a question period from the public. And I'll review the statement from the chair on the proceedings, or pardon me, the procedure of Committee of the Whole. For those of you present this evening and for those watching by television, I will explain that a Committee of the Whole meeting is a committee that consists of all members of Council. While meetings allow Council members to deal with issues in general detail, but in less formal than a regular meeting. During this meeting, issues not formally adopted, but recommendations may be made at the regular Council meeting. At this time, the recommendations of the previous Committee of the Whole meeting will be adopted and acted upon. Some key points to remember when making your presentation are: remember, Council meetings are televised, and it's very important to introduce yourself and, if applicable, name the organization that you are representing and speak directly into the microphone in a clear voice. When presenting, please address any comments or questions to the chair of the meeting. Keep your presentation brief, 5 minutes only. Once you have completed your presentation, please ensure you summarize any requests or concerns. The chair will then ask Council members if they have any questions. Remember, there are no decisions made at this meeting on any request or concern you have made. Lastly, requests will be referred to staff for review, report, and recommendations to the Council. And we would appreciate anybody asking questions that they keep in mind the consideration of the 5-minute time allotment. I now ask if there's anyone in the gallery tonight who wishes to come forward and ask a question about the City of Prince Rupert and its operations. I'll call for a second time if there's anybody who wishes to come forward to ask any questions about the City of Prince Rupert's operations. And I'll call for a third time if there's anybody who wishes to come forward from the gallery to ask questions about the city's operations. Seeing there's no one present, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reports, questions, and inquiries from members of Council. Are there any of those tonight for the Committee of the Whole meeting? If not, I'll ask Council to adjourn to reconvene to the regular Council meeting. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Garon. Is there any discussion? Questions been called. Those in favor? Thank you. We'll go back to the regular Council meeting. Next on the regular meeting of Council agenda is the recommendation that the agenda for the regular Council meeting of June 25th, 2012 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Carlick-Pearson, seconded by Councillor Garon. Is there any questions, any discussion? Questions have been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. Next for the Council's considerations are minutes for adoption. And the first set of minutes comes with the recommendation that the minutes of the special Council meeting of July 9th, 2012 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Garon. Are there any errors or omissions? Questions have been called. Those in favor? Thank you. Those minutes are adopted. The next set of minutes comes with a recommendation that the minutes of the regular Council meeting of July 9th, 2012 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Carlick-Pearson, seconded by Councillor Garon. Are there any errors or omissions? Questions been called. Those in favor? Thank you. Those minutes are adopted. Next, under petitions and delegations, there's an opportunity for the public to comment on the proposed permissive property tax exemption policy. And I'd ask anybody who is present this evening to provide comment on that proposed permissive property tax exemption policy to come forward. Good evening. If you'd like to make yourself comfortable there in front of the microphone. And when you're ready there, if you press it'll be grayish green to your eye, that button you'll be on. Thank you for coming down here this evening.
Your Worship, Council members, I am Bruce Rempel, and I'm the President of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 27. We have reviewed the proposed permissive tax exemption policy and agree with much of it. We are, however, very concerned about the utility of service portion and the effect it would have on the exemption that we currently receive on the property we own on Park Avenue. The Legion purchased the land on Park Avenue in hopes of building a new home for our members. Unfortunately, we're unable to find a financially sound way to do this. We agree that the vacant lot on Park Avenue is not being used by our organization for the benefit of the residents of Prince Rupert. We are an organization of volunteers, and like other shorthanded service groups, we are doing our best we can. The land has been listed with the real estate agent for years, and we have actively attempting to sell the property. The Legion is determined to be more proactive in our attempts to dispose of this piece of land. Unfortunately, as Council is aware, the economic conditions has made it extremely difficult to sell commercial property at any location in the city. We feel that this portion of the proposed policy, as it now reads, will penalize the Legion for something it does not have control over, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, and I'll ask you to stay there for a few minutes to see if there's any questions from members of Council. Councillor Garon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Rempel. When you first bought the property, were you aware that were there taxes owed on it? Like, was it just recently that we granted you the tax exemption? I can't really recall exactly what happened there.
We were paid, for the first year, I think we paid taxes, but in the last few years, there has been a tax exemption on it.
So for at least the last 3 years, I believe, there's been a tax exemption. Are there any other questions of Mr. Rempel? Thank you very much for your presentation. Is there anyone else here tonight who wishes to speak to the Council regarding the proposed permissive property tax exemption policy? If not, we'll move on. Next on the agenda under reports and recommendations is a report from the City Planner, and this concerns an application for a development variance permit at the address numbered 1012 Edward Street. It comes with a recommendation that the development variance permit application number DP-12-11 for 10112 Edwards Avenue proceed to public notification. Mr. Krekik, would you please come forward and review your report for the Council? Good evening.
Good evening, Your Worship. Thank you.
I'm not going to abandon you, Mr. Krekik. I'm just going to head for the water jug there. So please proceed. No, I'll look after it. Thank you.
This application came to us very recently, and I hastily prepared a report to meet some of the deadlines that the applicant has. The full application is attached to the report. The attached application is for variance to the maximum height of a new building. The result will be a new building which will exceed a maximum height of 9 meters by 1.6 meters. This is to accommodate 9-foot ceilings and higher pitch roof than usual. This is a new housing start. It's in the most recently developed Edward Avenue project. The subject property is identified. It is sitting on, I call it in a report, Gully Park side of the street. Very little chance that it would create any kind of a visual obstruction by its additional height. As well as on these lots, the developer has placed a statutory building scheme, which is attached to a report, which specifies what can be done. And the applicant has actually sought, on the advice of the developer, the design, which should be somewhere in here. There it is, with design. which matches all of the existing buildings. And the property will be right next to, or the new project will be located right next to this building on a lot immediately adjacent. And if you look at the profile of this building and the proposed design, they're very well matching indeed. This application requires approval to proceed with public notification. Therefore, the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the city planner? Councillor Garon.
So, where's the front of the building? You don't have it?
No, I didn't take that elevation out.
Just the pitch of the building that's making it taller. That pitch of the roof that's making it taller.
It's the pitch that's changed from slightly, and also if you look closer, these will be 9-foot ceilings. The measurements are right here. There will be 9-foot ceilings, so that adds a foot per floor as well as additional pitch. So rather than being precisely, we estimated up to 1.6 meters, so we don't have to come back in case it is slightly higher than the original estimate, about 1.3 meters.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Carlick Pearson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do the neighbors have any sort of say in the development, and are they consulted on this?
The way that the process works after this first introduction to the council, and if the council agrees with the recommendation to go to public notification, we advise the immediate neighbors by a letter, which is usually hand delivered. We give them 2 weeks to make any comments, notes, or questions, and we also have the application at the counter as well.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Krekic. I'll ask Council's consideration of the recommendation. And that it proceeds to public notification. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Garon. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. The question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. Next is on the agenda is a report from the city planner and the corporate administrator, and this is regarding the Waterfront East land use plan. The project and public consultation update comes with a recommendation that council receives this report for information. Mr. Krekic, would you like to outline your report, please, for those watching at home?
Thank you, Your Worship. This project has been identified by Council as one of the priorities in 2012 strategic plan. We prepared a sequence of reports which culminated on May 28 when a study area was identified. During the spring of 2012, staff was expecting to get a favorable answer from Port of Prince Rupert community grant application. That didn't take place, and as a result, the administration asked the staff to proceed on their own. Consequently, I am the registered planner in charge of the project, and we have a small project team here, including Robert Grodecki, Candice Campbell, and Ryoko Parks. And the work schedule looks like a fairly achievable one. We are now in the consultation process. It's going to run till early September. Analysis and draft report will be done by sometimes in mid-October. I will present the draft report to council and the community in late October. I will allow approximately a month for amendments to report. And final report to the council will be on the last meeting of this calendar year, which will be December 10th. The first phase of work commenced in early June. We had one open house on 27th. and 2 open houses following on 28 here in the council chambers. We try to accommodate both working people and those who prefer to meet in the evening. During the public consultation, we reached around 100 individuals. And since then, we have also had meetings with Cow Bay merchants. Individual meetings are being set up continuously with various property owners. We will be meeting tomorrow with the real estate agencies representatives, essentially trying to gain, I think I've used the term in a report, this is peanut butter time. We do not make any assumptions. We are essentially asking for as much input as possible in order to review our official community plan, zoning, bylaw, and development permit area guidelines and see if there's any adjustments that are required. We will be using the website as the way as to how to record and have this project interactive. So on our website, on the main page, there are sort of red flagged projects. One of them is Waterfront East Land Use Plan. That's going to remain there for the duration of the project. If you click on it, it has scope of work, background, and historical information. This is an interesting one. I have collected probably about 10 inches of reports from the past, and Candice was patient enough to actually scan them all. And so now we have all of these reports dating back to 1968. There are concerned with land use plans, specifically dealing with the waterfront and the Cow Bay as well. And so if we find other reports, or if anybody comes up with a new report, we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of keep it all there. After I read it, and I did read it all. There is some information that's outdated, but by and large, there's a lot of sort of recycled thoughts that are still current. The maps and photo gallery are essentially base mapping, and so when we are talking to people, like I'm communicating currently in the last day or two with CN and Chevron, and so we are trying to use this website as to how to shuttle back and forth drawings and such. And so on this site we have our base mapping. And I'm going to choose not to click it on them because it takes a little bit of time to load up. And so if anybody is going on a website to look at it, do give it 15 to 20 seconds to load up rather than trying to fasten it. Otherwise, it's going to freeze on you. So essentially, our base mapping has the study area, design considerations, which are things that are such as water, access, sewer. Today we met with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and we're talking about the environmentally sensitive areas, and they do have some mapping that we'll be including on this site as well to show the habitat values. And of course we have the ownership, and this is actually proving to be quite a sought-after map, the ownership of the properties, not by individuals, but by entities. We're also posting pictures and encouraging everybody to send us pictures if they have of the area. We are not very well equipped with pictures of that area, which is from Konitsa Station to Galloway Rapids. The consultation, I mentioned a number of meetings that are taking place ongoingly, and we haven't gotten to actually become a well-oiled, smooth machine. Nevertheless, this is the report from the first meeting, and usually what we try to do is bring out the map and ask the individuals to mark up the maps so that we can have a permanent record. And so I'm going to load this map, and it will take, as I said, about 15 seconds for it to load up. And this map is from the open houses, and we've had some interesting comments in addition to what people left on the map. We also have maybe about 50 written comments that we have in suggestion boxes, which will be compiled and posted on the same site. And so there are a variety of, I don't know if you can see it on here, but I'll try to increase it, and maybe I'm going to now harness another 15 seconds of your time. Nevertheless, there are some interesting comments. There are references to beaches. There are references to viewpoints. There are references to parking areas. There are references to more boardwalks. My cursor is not working well, and to boardwalks there are references even, and I think this may be actually I'm not okay. This could have been Marco. He wants an airport somewhere in that area. But I told him that's not going to be possible. Anyways, that will just kind of, we will continue to update the website. We will offer you updates. Probably the next update would be sometimes in late September, when I will be at the point of analysis. And at any time, you're welcome to visit the website and see what's there. And of course, if you have any comments, thoughts, or such, we are available to have a chat with you as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Mr. Krekic concerning this Waterfront East plan to date? Thanks again, Mr. Krekic, and look forward to further reports. I'll ask Council to consider the recommendation that Council receives this report for information. Moved by Councillor Garon, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That recommendation is adopted. Next is a report from the Chief Financial Officer, and this concerns the permissive property tax exemption policy. And it comes with a recommendation that Council consider the representations on the permissive taxes, that Council consider the representations on the permissive tax exemption policy and provide direction to staff on any needed changes to the policy. And I notice in the report, Mr. Howie, that it talks about the creation of a bylaw and possibly allowing, pursuant to local government legislation, the opportunity for the bylaw to set out a term of 5 years. I also note that in Mr. Roden's report, he talks about it taking effect in 2014. It may be that the Council decides that it should possibly take effect in 2013. But at this point, unless the Council has anything they wish to discuss on this, I would make a recommendation to the Council, seeing we're 2 members short, that this matter be returned to the agenda for a subsequent meeting when all members of Council are present. Mr. Howie.
Your Worship, I just wanted to mention, too, that we had correspondence from Museum of Northern British Columbia, which speaks in favor of having a tax exemption policy, and it does raise some concerns that they would like us to take a look at. So we'll be reporting back to Council on those concerns. Involves things like governance and other things of that nature. And also a letter from the Prince Rupert Golf Club saying that they support the new policy. So if Council refers it back to us, we'll analyze that and the information provided by the Legion this evening and have that for the next meeting as well.
Thank you very much. What are the considerations of Council on this matter? Councillor Garon?
I think it's good that we wait till more of us are here.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Kinney. Is there any discussion on that? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That passes. Mr. Howie, you'll bring it back with the information you mentioned also. Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship.
Next is a report from the Chief Financial Officer, and this is the June 2012 monthly department report. It comes with a recommendation that Council receives this report for information purposes. And Mr. Howie, in the absence of Mr. Roden, would you please outline that June 2012 monthly department report?
Yes, Your Worship. Mr. Roden's on vacation. That's why he's not here this evening. Basically, we're pretty much on target as we look at revenues and expenditures. The revenue for the airport ferry is down slightly, but very slightly. Overall, the utilities are in line, as are the revenues coming in. There's always a bit of a lag on property tax, and we are no better or worse than in a normal year in those property taxes coming in. And that really sums up 2 pages of small print, hard to read numbers.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of council? If not, I'll ask council's consideration of the recommendation that the report be received for information purposes. Councillor Garon.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kinney. Is there any discussion with regards to the recommendation? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That recommendation is adopted. Next, we'll move on to correspondence for action. There's a resolution request from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it comes with a recommendation that Council adopt the attached resolution. Mr. Howie, would you outline the resolution, please?
Your Worship, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has held a series of workshops throughout the country, the last one being today, a meeting with Minister Fletcher in Regina. But they're asking all municipalities and local governments across the country to point out to the federal government the need for additional funding for infrastructure. So I'll just read the resolved section. That the City of Prince Rupert endorses the FCM campaign and urges the Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities to work with the FCM to ensure the new long-term infrastructure plans meet the core infrastructure needs of cities and communities. Further, that the City of Prince Rupert urges the Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities to ensure that the new long-term plan is fully in place when existing programs expire in 2014. And thirdly, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities, to the Provincial Minister of Community, Sports and Cultural Development, to Nathan Cullen, Member of Parliament for Skeena-Bulkley Valley, to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Council's consideration of the resolution to be, if adopted, to be forwarded to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Garon. Are there any discussion, questions with regards to the recommendation to adopt the resolution? Councillor Rice, you had a question.
I'm just curious, are you, as mayor, are you actually participating in a sort of hands-on way with these roundtables, or? No,
I'm not involved directly with the UBCM, or pardon me, the FCM roundtables.
Okay, but in theory, these roundtables are all working towards issues that were.
They're all working towards support,
right?
And the support is actual funding for infrastructure programs for municipalities across Canada.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Councillor Carlick, would you like to, Carlick Pearson, would you like to call the question again? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That's adopted. We'll move on to a report from the City Manager on outstanding council initiatives. Mr. Howie, would you review your report, please?
Your Worship, I've provided copies at the desk just outside the door, and I'll just try to highlight some of the things and then respond to any questions council may have.
Thank you.
With regard to the proposed public safety building or buildings, we've received several responses to the advertisement that we ran asking for private property owners to express interest. We'll be reviewing those and reporting to council in September on that matter. The 9th Avenue East major road and utility upgrading is underway. We completed the water line installation for the first half of the project and are now starting on the storm and sanitary sewers and the curbing. We've taken a look at the downtown core and continue to notice that there are individuals who drop a lot of litter on the streets and in the back alleys, and so we've reassigned some individuals to make sure that we cover that off more effectively. The engineering staff is working with an engineering firm for the heating and boiler replacement at the Civic Center. That has been ongoing for a while, and we hope to have that wrapped up, but at least the engineers report to us this fall and installation of the best option later in the year or early next year. We've had some interest expressed in the request for proposals that Council put out for use of the old transition house on Atlin Avenue. With respect to the street lighting, we pilot project and the LED light study. I spoke to Mr. Horn today, and we're now looking at combining those two. There may be an opportunity to try out some LED lights in the Civic Center parking lot, so we can monitor and see what effect those have, rather than just going ahead and putting a bunch of lights up. The grant application to WestCap for some funding on the proposed marina was successful. We just received that news on Friday, and so we will now be seeking other partners, and other grant applications have been submitted to try to get up to the total cost of the project. You'll recall that Council authorized us to make that application. Council has yet to budget any funds, but that would come probably in next year's budget. And that sums up my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the City Manager concerning his report? Councillor Giron.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had people talk to me about the sidewalk repairs that we continually go with the bricks, and I'm just wondering, have we done a cost analysis on what it would be to just get rid of those bricks and have a plan in place to progressively replace those sidewalks out there, because they're
right. You're talking about the old-fashioned red brick on 3rd Avenue West.
Yeah. I just see us wasting a lot of time and energy replacing those bricks all the time, and I know the sidewalks have heaved too. So I'm just wondering if we have some kind of plan in place to progressively work on those.
We'll inquire, Mr. Howie.
I'll provide Council with a report on the options, Your Worship.
Certainly. Councillor Giron.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to the new city employees who have been doing a great job cleaning the city streets and weed whacking, and I've had people notice that they're doing a fabulous job out there.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the City Manager? If not, we'll move on to reports, questions, and Mr. Howie, thank you for your report. We'll move on to reports, questions, and inquiries from members of Council. Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Your Worship. On your behalf, I had the opportunity of attending the Senior Games draws for the prizes for those traveling and stuff, and the money. This group has worked so hard, and I just can't believe. I was just fascinated, and I went and did the draws for them and stuff, but they've raised over $60,000 themselves to go to these games. Yeah. And it's just, the kudos goes out to them, and I wish them all the best, and I'm sure the city does too.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Hope they do well, promote the community. It's a healthy place to live in your elderly years. Is there anything further from members of Council? If not, I'll give the Mayor's report. I attended the motor vessel 7 Seas Navigator at the Northland Cruise Ship Terminal to provide a greeting on behalf of Prince Rupert residents on the cruise ship's inaugural visit to the city. I also attended the motor vessel Silver Shadow at the Northland Cruise Dock to provide a welcome to cruise ship passengers, along with the inspector and staff sergeant from the city detachment of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I participated in an introductory session put on by the United Way in northern British Columbia about their ability to support various types of community programs, and they're actually, unbeknownst to a lot of people in the community already, and support the Success by Six program, along with some other provincial programs. I participated in a discussion about the Prince Rupert Community Integration Committee, partnering to improve health for our local region. There will be more information about programs and support services coming forward in September. The Community Integration Committee is sponsored by the Northern Health Authority. I met with the Minister of International Trade for Canada, Minister Ed Fast, to discuss the Prince Rupert Port development and additional trade opportunities through local port facilities. I participated along with 2 members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in providing greetings to the city visitors from the cruise ship, and this is again the second trip this year of the motor vessel Silver Shadow. We hope to see that vessel again next year. I attended a meeting with representatives of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and local salmon fishers to lobby for more gillnet and seine boat fishing opportunities on salmon heading for the Skeena River watershed. Councillor Thorkelson and the Skeena Queen Charlotte Regional District, a representative from Area A, Des Nobles, as well as the District of Port Edward Representative Councillor Knut Bjorndal, were there attending along with the fishermen and the various gear selection groups, whether they were seine boats or gillnetters. I participated in the Community Economic Adjustment Initiative Program Project Steering Committee meeting for consideration of coastal community projects funded up to a maximum of $25,000. And as mentioned earlier, the City of Prince Rupert request for a marina development project was approved. And this will now enable the city, the Prince Rupert Port Authority, and other interested parties to consider other funding and planning for the marina project to proceed. And this project is critical, or this funding is critical to the first phase of the project. I'll also mention to the council, and I was sad to hear this, that the Northwest Community College is removing the electrical program from Prince Rupert to Terrace. And I think the city should either oppose this or at least state concerns before anything else is lost out of our local college facility. I know that there is a demand for that course, and in Prince Rupert in particular, with the development, the expansion of the coal terminal, which is taking place from now until the end of 2014, and the expansion of the first phase of the container port, which will start in this September-October. Also the development of a railway, a road and utility corridor on Ridley Island, that all of this will involve people that are electricians and people that are looking for apprenticeships. And I really think that we should state our concerns loud and clear that the Northwest Community College is supported by this community at large. And we have people not only in the community but within the region that look forward to opportunities at that campus. And certainly I would not want to see anything else lost from Prince Rupert. And in fact, I'd like to see the day when perhaps that electrical program is reinstated here. So I'll leave that with the council. I know it's short notice to ask for any sort of motion, but perhaps we want to meet with representatives of Northwest Community College to hear their reasons for this and why they thought it was best to withdraw it from our community. I'll leave it at that. Councillor Garon.
So will staff be making a phone call and arranging a meeting?
If we make a motion, the staff will.
I'd like to make a motion that we arrange to
Contact
meet with them.
Northwest Community
Yeah.
College and arrange a meeting regarding withdrawal of programs. Seconded by Councillor Kinney. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rice? No? Councillor Carlick-Pearson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to stress the importance of the Northwest Community College as well. Unfortunately, we don't always have the numbers to fill the seats at the college, and I really encourage people to look at our college as being a very impressive institution. And we are going to be adding, I know for a fact that we are going to be adding different courses this fall that might suit Prince Rupert needs in the upcoming industries. So just to promote the college and all the opportunities that we're going to have in the future there. And I fully endorse what Your Worship has said about the college and think that they're very credible and have a lot of great features of a college. And I'll be encouraging any young people that I know or anybody else that wants to go back to school to go to the Northwest Community College.
You're right, and thank you for your comment. There may be opportunities coming forward in the future, but we hate to lose any opportunities also.
Yeah.
Mr. Howie.
It's on another matter, Your Worship.
Yes? Oh, well, hold on. We'll call for the question. The question's been called. Those in favor. Thank you. Please go ahead.
I may have misheard you, Your Worship, but I just wanted to... I thought I heard you say the West Cap program had a cap of $25,000. It's $250,000. So I may have
I believe I said
Okay.
$250,000, but you've got pretty good ears also. Thank you, though. It is $250,000 that the city has now been afforded access to on this proposed marine dock facility, which could be located in front of the Atlan terminal, and it would afford the community the opportunity to capture marine vessels that are transiting the North Coast. We lose a lot of that opportunity because they just continue straight on, not believing we have adequate facilities. So this proposal would provide for that, and of course create more opportunities by having more visitors stop here. Mr. Howie, have you anything further this evening?
No, Your Worship.
Mr. Gradecki?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll ask Council for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Councillor Garan, seconded by Councillor Rice. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. Those in favor. Thank you. This council meeting stands adjourned.